Alright boys, rapid fire beginner tips, let's do this man. Tip number 1 is going to be speed is simply the best stat in the game, especially on any kind of champion that is applying debuffs to the enemy or buffs to your team, right? You want these champions to be fast as hell so that they attack in first and do things like decrease enemy defense, like Tyrell does right here, before your big damage dealers come in. Speed is king. Tip number 2 is to never forget that boots are the only artifact type that can roll into speed as a primary stat, which makes speed boots absolutely premium. Even the likes of these kind of crappy common 4-star speed boots right here from a crappy artifact set, right? The life set. Like, who the hell cares about that, right? Well, I care about it because they rolled speed primary. And for my 9-day-old account, these are just pretty solid boots, okay? Now, you will eventually build champions out in future that have things like defense percentage or attack percentage on their boots as the primary stat, but that's really more like mid to late game style champion builds. If you're just getting started, speed on your boots, particularly 4-star and up, those are going to be some premium boots for you to hold on to and use. Tip number 3 is to always aim for 100% crit rate on your damage dealers, okay? The easiest way to do this in the super early game is going to be getting some crit rate percentage primary gloves, okay? Gloves are the only item in the game in which you can roll crit rate percentage as the primary stat. And yeah, it's going to be by far the best way to crank up the crit rate by a hell of a lot on your nukers, right? Your damage dealers, especially your campaign farmer. Again, just like with boots, crit rate will not always be the best stat on your gloves forever. Eventually, you're going to want to have things like crit damage as the primary stat on your gloves, and you get the crit rate from other item pieces. But when you're just getting started, crit rate is by far the easiest way to get that crit rate secured on your damage dealers. Tip number 4 is simply that the stats on your items are 1,000 times more important than the quality or the rarity of the item. For example, these speed roots right here, they might be 5-star quality, they might be epic rarity, but bro, they rolled into defense percentage and 0 speed as substats on these boots. These boots suck. They don't do anything that I want speed boots to do. Trash. And kind of tied into that is tip number 5, which is to never ever buy artifacts off of the in-game shop. For example, we've got this artifact chest deal right here, drops 10 artifacts, 5 and 6-star quality with the chance to even roll into mythical quality rarity artifacts, right? The only problem is that, say for example, you get, just for argument's sake, 10 speed artifacts from this, and none of them have speed as substat rolls, or you get like 3 speed boots, but all of them are like flat HP or flat defense as the primary stat, and just none of them hit speed. Well, guess what? They're all completely trash, and you're just not going to use them anyway. So yeah, just be aware when buying artifacts off the shop. It's a huge gamble. Better not to roll the dice at all, and just grind up your gear the old-fashioned way. Tip number 5.5, I guess, is going to be to make sure that you start off your raid account using a beginner promo link. And dudes, we just got a new link for this channel that is absolutely unbelievable. We're talking 4 free epic champions, absolutely unprecedented stuff. You'll start off your account with a Ugo, which frankly is an incredible champ to have, like, I don't know, everywhere in the game. At account level 40, you'll get yourself Fane, which is a clan boss specialist champ, which is going to help you out so much into the Demon Lord clan boss. 5 levels later, at account level 45, you'll get yourself Romero, which is just an incredible support champ, bringing all kinds of heals and AoE shielding for your team. And then again, at account level 50, you'll get yourself Vergis, or Vergis, which is of course a champ that can literally solo multiple bosses in the game, specifically those pesky Doom Tower bosses. So make sure that you first log out of Plarium Player on your PC before clicking on that beginner promo link to sign up and create a new account to guarantee that you get your hands on those 4 epic champions. Then once you've done the tutorial on your new account, input the beginner code MidGameTop to get your hands on Sigmund the High Shield when your account hits level 30. That's 5 free champions, 4 epics, 1 legendary. Ridiculously incredible way to start off your new account, man. Alright, on to the next. Tip number 6 is to pay attention to what stat scales your champions. For example, Sun Wukong right here, he's an attack-based legendary. If you want to be doubly sure, because it's not always the same with every champ, you can actually click on their skills, and it will tell you right here at the bottom of their skill, damage based on, in this case, attack. That means that any attack stats we put on Sun Wukong are going to increase his attack damage. Who'da thunk it, right? Tyrell, on the other hand, is a defense-based champion, and if you click on his skills, his damage is based on defense, meaning the more defense we build on Tyrell, for example, on his gloves right here, we have defense percentage, that will actually increase his damage as well as his survivability because it's a defense stat, right? Attack will do nothing to increase Tyrell's damage, so just make sure to always double check that when you're building up a new champ. Sticking on the topic of gear, tip number 7 is going to be that gloves, chest, and boots, right? The 3 items along the bottom of your gear right here are the only artifacts you can collect that can roll into percentage stats as the primary stat, and percentage stats are always infinitely better than flat stats, right? If these were flat defense gloves, there is no way I would ever take them up to rank 16. It just wouldn't happen, okay? Percentage-based primary stats are always going to be best on these artifact pieces. Well, the exception being boots, of course, as we've already established that speed 99 times out of 100 is going to be the best stat for your boots, especially when you're just getting started. Next up, what does accuracy do as a stat? You've probably seen it on some of your artifacts. It's not that clear what it actually does. Accuracy simply allows you to land any negative effect on enemies that is not damage, okay? If you're decreasing your enemy's 10 meter, that requires accuracy. If you're decreasing their defense with a debuff, that requires accuracy. If you're poisoning them or removing their buffs, anything like that requires accuracy to get done. For example, like Tyrell's AoE decreased defense debuff right here on his A2. That means that like 80% of champions in Raid require accuracy in some form or in some measure. And so how much accuracy do you need? A very easy way to tell in the super early game is to go into whatever dungeon stage you're currently up to. For example, right here, I'm up to stage 9 of Dragon, and just add a 0 to the end of the stage. I would need about 90 accuracy on my champs to be landing debuffs on stage 9 Dragon Boss. Just an easy way to tell, right? If we were to progress all the way on down to stage 16, we'd need about 160 accuracy on our debuffers to land things like poisons and decreased defense and whatever against the dragon. Very easy way just to kind of get a general feel of how much accuracy you should have on your champs based on where your account progress is at. Tip number 10 is no matter how good a piece of 3-star gear might seem, never ever take it up to rank 16, okay? If you're just getting started, this is a real beginner tip. If you're just getting started and you're like a week or 2 into Raid, you might have some legendary speed boots, okay? But they're only 3 stars and you think, well, they're legendary, right? They must be worth taking up to rank 16. Well, probably not, given that some 5-star common speed boots are probably better, okay? 3-star artifacts, their stat rolls can be great, but they're always low. Even if the stats are good, they're always just low numbers, okay? And they will be replaced very quickly on your account. In fact, 1 or 2 months in, you're probably already starting to get rid of 4-star artifacts and start to, turn your nose up at 4-star artifacts on occasion, you know? So just be aware of how quickly your new account is going to progress in Raid so that you don't get caught out and waste a bunch of silver upgrading trash. Tip number 11 is if you are rolling up a piece of gear, which is to say upgrading a piece of gear, make sure that you upgrade the piece of gear before you equip it on a champion to see where the stat rolls on the piece go, and so then you can decide if you actually like the piece of gear and want to equip it or not. Why is this so important? Well, it's because if you want to remove an artifact from a champion, it costs you silver, okay? And it costs more silver based on the quality of the item, so just be aware of that. Always upgrade your gear before equipping it on a champ and never after the fact. Because then if you want to remove it, you're going to get a swift kick in the nuts. Tip number 12 is about campaign farming. In fact, these are all going to be silver related tips, but right here, just behind my camera, we can switch on over to brutal campaign difficulty, and you want to be farming mostly stage 12 of campaign, level 3. Why level 3? Well, it's good experience for your campaign farmer to boost your food champions through and get them leveled up and ready to use in the tavern as food champions. But you also want to be farming level 3 because you get artifact shield drops from level 3. Why is that good? Shields sell for more silver than weapons, headpieces, boots, all of that kind of crap, right? And so this way you're just maximizing the amount of resources that you're getting when you're farming up your food champions in campaign. So that's 12, part 3. Tip number 13 is that the market is simply bait for new players. There's not a lot of stuff here that you're actually interested in. However, I will also say that I guess tip number 14 would be to always buy the shards out of the market building. Mystery shards only cost you 5,000 silver to buy, and frankly, you can't get enough of these, especially as a free-to-play player. They can help you get through shard pulling events and stuff where you're required to pull a certain amount of shards to, you know, generate points and stuff like that. But you also want to check in on the market building whenever the red dot appears, because ancient shards can show up in your market building, right? 5 ancient shards per month. will guareteedly show up in your market building. It's just up to you to catch them. So make sure that you check the market building every time it naturally refreshes. Don't go spending gems or whatever. Just try to be attentive and check it out, man. Because those ancient shards, they cost you 200,000 silver. Buy them every time. It's totally worth it. All right, man, time for a couple of arena tips. In Classic Arena, you want to go ahead and build out your team with a speed aura lead as your party leader, right? In my case, Sun Wukong is doing the job. Aura skill increases ally speed in arena battles by 28%, just ensuring that I get to attack in first, which more often than not, in super like bronze arena, right, super beginner arena, is just going to be the difference maker between who wins and who loses, right? If you did not start off your account with Sun Wukong, don't worry, in your daily login rewards, you will eventually get yourself High Khotun after 30 days of playing, free epic champion, and she does bring a speed aura as well, increase ally speed in all battles by 19%, so just set her as your party lead instead. Not as good as Sun Wukong, of course, but yeah, she is an option. Tip number 16 is when spending your medals from Arena in the Great Hall, really just double down on the accuracy nodes, okay? Accuracy becomes a tough stat to hit, and frankly, it's useful on like 80 or 85% of the champions in Raid Shadow Legends. So while you will have to spend some of your medals in attack nodes early on to complete some of those early beginner challenges that pop up on your account, yeah, accuracy is a pretty damn safe node to really focus on in the beginning. Try and build these up to like rank 3 or rank 4, and then take one of them and level it all the way up to 10. Okay, it's going to take a good few months, but it is required in order to finish your missions rewards track, okay, to have at least one node leveled up to 10. So just be aware of that, okay? Don't get stuck on that. Last thing you want to do is spread your medals all over the place, okay? It's just a huge waste of time. And yeah, it's going to end up making it so that you get stuck on that mission that requires you to get a level 10 node. You don't want to be that guy. Believe me, I made that mistake. Tip number 17, and the start of the shard related tips, is to not pull your ancient shards or your void shards ever. Well, not really. You want to wait for these events right here. There is currently a 2x chance of epic and legendary champions event active for the next couple days for void shards. I've already pulled mine, but if you got void shards just sitting around on your new account, now is a great time to pull them, because frankly, any void epic that you can pull from these, or even like void rares are fine, but hopefully you can pull into like a void epic. It's just gonna be a huge upgrade for your account. So you want to look out for these 2x events right here for your ancients and voids. Tip number 18 is to, honestly, no matter what event goes active, just hold on to your sacred shards. I'd recommend you just save all of these suckers so that eventually you can have like six or seven of these saved up, and you can then take part in your very first fusion event, which come by every month, and they're very tough to save up for if it's your first event. Yeah, and sacred shards are by far the most difficult resource to get your hands on, so I'd recommend save these no matter what. Some people will disagree with that. Some people actually just say as soon as a 2x event comes along for sacreds, try your luck and see if you can grab yourself a legendary. Fair enough. Honestly, there's no wrong answer to it, but for me, I prefer to be much more cautious and safe with my sacred shards, because I know how tough they are to get when your account is new. Tip number 19, moving on to gems. I would recommend that you spend all of the starter gems that you get from completing your missions on maxing up your gem mine building, 3 out of 3 upgraded, so you get a constant trickle of gems coming in from this building every single day. It's awesome. Another way that you can do this is spend your first 800 gems on buying the mastery scrolls to fully unlock all of the masteries for your campaign farmer and for your strongest damage dealing champ, and then start spending your gems on the gem mine. For me, I'd rather invest in the gem mine first and never really spend the gems on getting the mastery scrolls if I could avoid it. Also, to be clear, if you do decide to spend the gems on mastery scrolls first and then invest in the gem mine, just be aware that you should never spend gems on masteries ever again after doing it one time on one champion. I'd recommend you don't do it ever, to be honest, but that's just me. Some people, though, are liable to disagree with that. For sure. There's actually a couple of tips in this video that people might have a different take on, which is fine. Tip number 20 is simply that there are only 2 other ways that you should be spending your gems after you've got the gem mine fully unlocked. One of those is buying energy refills right here in the gem shop. 40 energy for a full energy refill. If you want to pull during a shard pulling event and you have a few thousand gems saved up, you can buy the big shard packs right here, which are okay value, I guess, for 11 ancient shards. But ideally, the only other way you'll be spending energy is to go ahead and pick up experience boosts, particularly this 3-day experience boost, which just works out at a better deal than just buying the 1-day experience boost. Moving on to some champion leveling tips. In fact, tip number 21 is make sure that you are never ever leveling up your food champions in campaign if you do not have an experience boost active. Okay, it's just not worth it. You can check if you have an experience boost active by just going to your bastion here and clicking on this little XP banner, and it will tell you how long of an experience boost you have left, or if you have one active at all. Tip number 22 that we've already kind of alluded to is you want to rush your campaign farmer, right? Your AoE damage dealer. In my case, Sun Wukong. For you, it might be your starter champion, Kayle, or one of the others. You want to rush these champs up to level 60 as quickly as you possibly can. It's the most important thing. One level 60 nuker like a Wukong is worth like 12 level 50 champs. Okay, it's a huge difference to get these champs up to 60. The higher level and more powerful these guys are, the deeper into difficulties, and into brutal difficulty campaign you can farm, which is going to mean more experiences coming in, and you can level food champs then even faster for the rest of your guys. Okay, getting your first champ up to 60, very important. Tip number 23 is to maximize the amount of experience you are gaining from your campaign farmer as you go. So we've got Sun Wukong in here as our level 50 for now campaign farmer. What we do not want to do is farm like this, throwing one food champion into the mix to get experience on, right? What this is going to do is cause a 50-50 split in the amount of experience that is going to Wukong, 50% here, and 50% of the experience will go to Mr. Crocodile over here, which is not ideal. The point is that a max level champion will still get a share of the experience even if they are not benefiting from it. So what you want to do is make sure that you've always got the party filled out, so that this way 75% of the experience gained is going to use on your food champions, and we're only wasting 25% of the experience gained on the Sun Wukong. Tip number 24 is to not use your starting champion as food, okay? You might want to go ahead and rank up another level 40 champ, throw your starter champ into the mix and just get them up there. Yeah, I would never recommend this. It actually shocks me and leaves me aghast how many people just say, yeah, once you've got like a campaign farmer up to level 60, forget about your starter champ. That is not needed anymore, scrap him. And it's like completely forgetting that faction wars are a thing, and you don't have any resources when you're starting out, and you're not going to have any resources for a long time if you're a free-to-play player. You know, it's going to be quite the grind. Don't food your starter champ. That's crazy advice that I've seen in the comments of some videos, and you'd be surprised how many new players will actually feed in their starter champ like day 2 or something, and yeah, regret their decision deeply. Yeah, I just wouldn't do it. I still use my Kayle today in Faction Wars, and my main account is 8 months in, just for some perspective. Tip number 25 is that not all champions have to be taken up to level 60 to have crazy good impact. Rector-Drath, I will eventually take Rector-Drath up to level 60 when I need her against certain bosses later on in the game, but for now I'd be more than happy to take her up to 5 stars, level 50, and just leave her there, right? Getting the damage dealers maxed up first is by far the most important focus for a new account. Should be for yours as well. Another champion that you can leave at level 50 for quite a long time, if not forever, is actually the 30-day login reward champion, once again, Haikatoon, because she brings increased speed and some 10 meter fill, and then some 10 meter decrease against enemies. She can do her job just fine at level 50. She doesn't need to go up to 60 anytime soon, if ever. And so, yeah, just be mindful of that, man. Not all champions require all of that resource investment to take them up to 60. Tip number 26 is for after you've joined a clan, which you should do very early on, ideally in the first few days of your account, if not day 1, you know, if you're really going to blast on day 1, you want to try and build champions that do well into Demon Lord, okay? Demon Lord progression and eventually unlocking the harder and more difficult Demon Lord chests is a huge deal. It's going to get you all kinds of free gear and free shards every single day, up until the point where if you're farming like Ultra Nightmare and like the biggest chests, you can actually get some Sacred Shard drops, and it's not too infrequent either. So yeah, it's massive rewards. Of course, it's going to take you a while to get this done, but you might as well start early. What kind of champions do you want to build? Champions that bring decreased attack debuffs, decreased defense debuffs, can be pretty strong as well. Poison champions is a massive one Okay, any kind of champion that's applying poison as a debuff against Demon Lord is a huge, huge deal. A couple of examples are, we of course have Kayle, the starter champion, who has a quadruple hitter with a chance on each hit of placing the strong version, the 5% version of poison debuff. If you happen to grab the rare champion Frozen Banshee, this is another great poisoner with a chance to double apply poison on her A1 skill, so she can really, really spam that out. And a super, super budget option that you can take up to level 40, maybe level 50 at a push. I'd recommend level 40 mostly for good old Outlaw Monk, who on his A2, which you can get down to 310 cooldown, plays 2 poison debuffs on the target for 2 turns. Great budget option if Kayle was not your starting champion. Yeah, poisons, very, very, very effective indeed into Demon Lord Clan Boss for ramping up their damage. Tip 27 is to make sure that you are clearing the appropriate stages of Clan Boss and you're not just pumping too much damage into one stage. As you can see down here, there I am. I've dealt 2.44 million damage into easy mode Clan Boss. What does that get me? Well, you can actually check by clicking on the little boxes over here on the right of the screen. So if we click on this, you can see, depending on how much damage in total you've dealt to the Clan Boss, what chest you are going to get to unlock. Because we've dealt over 1.15 million damage, we're going to get ourselves the Warrior chest and get these rewards. Make sure you're not like over tunneling into one version of Clan Boss, and yeah, just be aware that various stages of Clan Boss, if you're not able to deal 909,000 damage to normal mode Clan Boss, right, and you only deal like 400k or something and your team's just dead, then you're not going to get anything for it, okay? So don't be wasting your Demon Lord Clan Boss keys. Tip number 28 is to, frankly, ignore Hydra when you unlock it for the first time on your account. It unlocks at account level 45. This is about like 2 or 3 months too early for the vast majority of players. I mean, you can play against Hydra at those levels, okay? No one's going to come knocking at your door to arrest you or anything, but I'm just saying, you're going to get annihilated. And that's okay. Okay, don't be demoralized. Hydra unlocks, yeah, way too early. Tip number 29 is to frankly ignore all dungeons unless there is currently a dungeon tournament active and you plan on farming yourself some free rewards. For example, Fire Knight's Castle is open right now. This is a dungeon I haven't touched really because frankly it's quite a tough dungeon to build a team for when you're first starting out on your new account. But if I head on back to my Bastion just now, we can go into the tournaments menu over here on the top right, and you can see that there is currently a Fire Knight tournament active, and so you can aim for a certain points total in this tournament as you farm it up and farm up yourself some free rewards. And generally you never ever want to be farming any kind of dungeon in this game unless there is a tournament event active so that you can farm up some extra rewards as you go. Tip number 30, on the other hand, would be even if there is a Sand Devils or a Phantom Shoguns tournament active at any given time, as a new player, completely ignore these dungeons, right? They're actually locked until account level 38, as it happens, with good reason. And even when they first unlock, they're probably going to be irrelevant to you for at least a few months. Yeah, you just don't need the rewards from these. It's for ascending up your gear. And frankly, that's more of like a late game thing anyway. And tip number 31 is going to be to spend all of your Faction Wars keys every day. I haven't spent any of mine just now because my account being 9 days old, I actually just don't even have a single champion for some of these factions. So I can't even clear stage 1 of these. But if you can, and you can only clear stage 1 of these faction crypts, go ahead and do it. You might as well get your hands on just some free rewards and some very, very basic glyphs and crafting materials as you go, which you'll be using later on in your forge building. And frankly, it's free stuff, and you have infinite auto battles as well in the Faction Wars crypts, so you might as well farm these up. And alright guys, if I missed any new tips for new players just starting out in Raid, then make sure to pop them down below in the comments to help your brother Raiders out. And hey man, if you'd like to start off a new Raid account, make sure to use my beginner promo link, which once again is down below at the top of the video description, to get your hands on 4 free epic champions, and then input the beginner code MidGameTop to get a 5th champion of the legendary quality, Sigmund the High Shield. Incredible beginner link. Alright man, thanks for watching guys, hope you all enjoyed this one, and I'm gonna catch all of you all just a tad bit later man.